Taoiseach Fine Gael leader Leo Varadkar, good morning.
Good morning, and welcome to Trim in County Meath, and thanks for being here.
Where you're having your party think-in, and you'll be addressing the party in just under an hour's time. The Dáil resuming on Wednesday, of course, and I know you want to focus on the future. But whether you like it or not, this Sinn Féin vote of no confidence in Simon Coveney, it's going to be a major issue for you and the party. It's been rumbling on now for 8 weeks. And is that not down to you and Simon Coveney and your handling or your mishandling of the Sapone appointment and the questions that have arisen?
Well, it is in part, quite frankly, and I know talking to members of the parliamentary party over the summer and talking to ordinary party members, our activists, our volunteers, a lot of them are disappointed and not happy at all at the fact that Fine Gael hasn't been at its best, hasn't been at its most competent and its sharpest for the past couple of weeks and couple of months, and that has led to this competence motion on Wednesday. But this meeting is going to be a good one. It's the first time we've all had a chance to be in the same room to have a meeting like this, we think, since July 2019, so it's been a long time. Not to engage with your colleagues, it's been all over Zoom and WebEx. I think everyone will understand that experience, but it's a great opportunity to meet, to regroup, and also to reset, and that's what we're going to do here. We're going to talk about the mistakes over the summer, we're definitely going to do that, but we're going to come out of here united. We're going to reset, and we're going to knuckle down, work really hard between now and Christmas, and demonstrate to the country once again why Fine Gael in government is a good thing. OK, and
we'll talk about that reset, but I want to look at some of the questions that have arisen for you and put them to you. It is said that you and Simon Coveney, you've embarrassed the Taoiseach. You've disrespected, I think Jim O'Callaghan said this, you've disrespected your fellow Fianna Fáil ministers. You're accused of a divvy-up, of cronyism, of insider dealings. And 8 weeks on, handling what is now an omni-shambles, and you've failed to move forward from it.
Well, there's a lot of accusations there.
They're not mine. They have been put by various people, some within and some outside of government.
Well, in relation to the Sapone appointment, as you know, the memo with the name of Captain Sapone was in the Taoiseach's office the day before the cabinet meeting. Notwithstanding that, Simon Coveney and I had a responsibility to flag that to him. Him as line minister, me as leader in government. There should be good faith and no surprises. And I've spoken to the Taoiseach about that.
Did you apologise?
I did, absolutely, because in a government. And this is the third coalition I've been involved in. I know something about making coalitions work. Both of them lasted full term. And it has to be based on two principles: good faith, and we have good faith in this government among the three parties and the three leaders, and no surprises. And I should have seen the potential political sensitivities in this appointment. It's not the first time we've appointed special envoys. We've been doing them for years, in fact, usually appointed directly by the Taoiseach or the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Never been a particular process followed. But because it was a former cabinet minister, it was potentially politically sensitive. I should have seen that. I didn't, and I take responsibility for that. And I spoke to the Taoiseach about it. But let's bear in mind, things sometimes in the coalition work in the other direction, and on occasions there have been times when, as Fine Gael, we've been a little bit surprised about things that the Greens have done or Fianna Fáil have done. And what you do when something like that happens is you front up, you accept the other person's good faith, and you move on. And in fairness, the Taoiseach has moved on.
At the very least here, do you think now, coming out of this, that you need clear rules around texts that involve government business? I mean, your own FOI officer, he or she didn't know about your texts. It seems your advisors didn't check with you. You were away. And we know Simon Coveney was clearing down his phone.
I think we do. The Freedom of Information Act was refreshed in 2015, but I don't think it was refreshed adequately. When freedom of information was first developed as a concept, it largely related to files, both paper files and electronic files. The world has moved on a lot since then. A huge amount of things that would have been done as a conversation in the past are now done.
But what will you do about this?
Well, I think we're going to need to do a review and a refresh of the Freedom of Information Act. Bear in mind one thing, for example, direct messages. You probably get them all the time. You get DMs on Twitter. You get DMs on Instagram. You probably don't even know that you've ever received these messages. And yet, in theory, you should be releasing them under FOI.
Clear rules around texts and social media and ministers.
Well, I think we need. I think we need
government business.
Well, it's not just ministers, by the way, because the Freedom of Information Act extends to like all civil servants, all public servants, and all public bodies. So, potentially extends to hundreds of thousands of people, and there shouldn't be different rules for us.
So, will you review
as them? Yeah. So, I think that'd be absolutely the right thing to do.
It's also said of you now, and this is around your own leadership of the party. Is Fine Gael too long in power? Have you become far too comfortable now in the ministerial seats?
No, I don't believe that. I think experience matters in politics. I wouldn't like to see Ireland run by people who have never done a budget, never brought legislation through the Dáil and Seanad, never run a department,
when you
never dealt with a crisis.
When you came into power 10 years ago, it had been a very long time since Fine Gael had been in power. I don't know, save for Enda Kenny, was there any other member of your party at the time who was put forward for cabinet who had been in power before?
Well, there was, of course, Michael Noonan, for example, and
Enda Kenny.
And some of the Labour people had cabinet experience too. So
but
I would not like to see a cabinet with nobody of any experience
who had not experienced before.
Yeah, so what we've always done in Fine Gael, and we are a party that renews itself all the time, is we offer a mixture of youth and experience. I used to be the youth, now I'm the experienced. But we also have younger people in the cabinet and as ministers too. So yes, we're 10 years in office, but a lot of our ministers aren't. Helen McEntee, for example, the Justice Minister, less than 5 years in ministerial office. One of our rising stars, Hildegard Naughton, only a year or so in office. So we offer both experience and freshness.
And you want to move forward today with your speech to the party, which you're giving in an hour's time. You said a few months ago that this economy is going to take off like a rocket. You said it was possible to get public finances back on a sustainable footing without tax increases and without cuts to spending. Is that still your position?
Yes, and I think I'm even more convinced of that than I was previously, because what we have seen over the past couple of months is a huge return to employment. The number of people at work rising again, really encouraging. We're seeing some very good exchequer figures. The taxes are coming in, so we're actually ahead of where we thought we would be at this point in the economic cycle. And because there is a growing economy, there are more resources. For some people in politics, when you talk about more resources, they immediately think about what taxes can I put up. In Fine Gael, we're different. We believe it's possible to make the cake bigger, to make your country richer. And by doing so, then you don't need to increase taxes.
So do you want to cut taxes and increase welfare?
What we want to do is to do all these things in a prudent fashion. So the overriding objective, of course, is to eliminate borrowing for anything other than capital. Anything other than infrastructure, housing, new hospitals, and so on. We're going to do that by 2023, based on the plans that Pascal Donoghue has produced. So we will eliminate borrowing for anything other than day-to-day spending by 2023, and that will still leave room for a tax package every year of about 500 million and increases in spending of about an additional billion, and that's on top of adjusting for demographics, for example. So we will be able to have what would have been quite normal in the past in a budget package, increases in spending for line departments, but also a pension and welfare package and a tax package too. And one thing I do feel very strongly about is that we do need a welfare package in this budget. We see the return to inflation. The cost of living is now rising. Pensioners and people on fixed incomes haven't seen an increase in 2 years now. If they don't get an increase, actually their living standards will fall. And as a party that believes in the Just Society, we can't stand over that. And also we're a party that believes in rewarding work, and that's why we believe there has to be a tax package.
All right, and you know the warnings that are coming from the Fiscal Advisory Council, you know what the Central Bank has been saying, but yet you're proposing, as I understand what you're saying, to cut taxes in the budget in October, to increase spending, to present a welfare budget, already against a backdrop of the supports that are being offered for COVID, a capital budget coming forward. How are you funding all of this?
Well, just to say, I'm not just saying this, the government is saying this. We agreed a summer economic statement which provides for spending increases and provides for a tax package every year. So Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and the Greens are saying this together. This is a government position. Of course, we listen to the advice of bodies like the Central Bank and IFAC. We also listen to bodies like ERSI. Let's not forget the report from the ESRI only a few months ago saying that we should borrow more to invest in housing. And everyone was telling us that we should listen to the ESRI. We are. 4 billion a year going into housing, the most ambitious social housing programme in the history of the state. So you do hear different advice from different bodies. There's a lot of advisory bodies out there. We listen to the advice in the round, but we also listen to hear what people are saying to us. And what people are saying to us is that they want their incomes protected. The cost of living is rising, so they're going to need a bit more money every year in order to just stay where they are in terms of living standards. And yes, we need more investment in things like housing and climate.
So that's where you're going. Sláintecare seems to have gone off track. Have you spoken to Laura McGahey and Tom Keane, who have now resigned from their positions within the implementation body of Sláintecare, to find out why? Why are they gone?
Well, I haven't yet, but I would be keen to. And I know that Taoiseach is trying to arrange a time to speak to them, and I hope to be part of that meeting. They were appointed during my time as Taoiseach and Simon Harris's time as Minister of Health. I've met Tom Keane in Toronto, spoken to Laura many times. I'm sorry that they've gone. I didn't know it was coming, and I would have preferred to have a chance to talk to them before they resigned.
Did anyone know it was coming?
That I don't know, but certainly, I
you're a
didn't
former
anyway.
Minister for Health. You didn't know, and you're Taoiseach.
That's correct.
And you didn't know, did the Taoiseach know?
That I don't know, but surprises happen to me too,
But is Sláintecare off track now?
It is off track, but it's off track for a very good reason. We had a pandemic, and in fairness to the Department of Health and the HSE, they have done a fabulous job, I think, over the past year or two. We've 800 more beds in our system, 50 more ICU beds, about 15,000 more staff, a brilliant vaccine programme, a very good test, trace and isolate programme, a shift to things, reforms that we were talking about for years, like e-prescribing, for example, GPs having direct access to diagnostic. A lot of good things have happened in the health service over the past year or two. But in fairness to HSE and the Department of Health, they had to do those things because of the pandemic. And yeah, now we need to get it back on track, absolutely.
Okay, I want to move on to pensions, because we've had leaks from this pension commission, which is pushing out any increase in the pension age until, I think, 2028. And a proposal, and maybe you can confirm it, that this would be funded through increases in PRSI for the self-employed. Is that the case, and are you opposed to it?
First of all, I'd say I haven't had a chance to read the report or get the presentation on it yet, but I look forward to that happening quite soon. My understanding is the proposal in relation to the self-employed is less about the pension age and more about the fact that self-employed people receive similar benefits to employed people, but they pay the employee rate rather than the employer rate. But that's been the case for a very long time, and we as a party in Fine Gael don't support changing that.
So you keep it at 4% as it is now, is that right?
Well, yes.
And not increase it upward to maybe 11%. And any increase at all?
I think if there's an increase there, and I'm not saying that there should be an increase, but I think if there's an increase, it should be for everyone. I don't think the self-employed should be singled out. And bear in mind, self-employed already pay an extra 3% tax.
So should there be an increase for everyone?
Only if it's going to be used to pay for improvements in social benefits and services. But that's a very different question. We have 300,000 people in Ireland who are self-employed, farmers, business owners, freelancers, people working in the gig economy, professionals. I don't think they should face a 7% increase in PRSI in return for no additional benefits. That's unfair. It goes against all our policies in terms of rewarding work, supporting enterprise, and Fine Gael won't favour that proposal.
A couple of questions for you around COVID. Will we see the scaling back of supports, the COVID supports, as is planned?
We will, and as you know, the pandemic unemployment payment is already being withdrawn, and that will produce a lot of savings in terms of reducing the deficit and getting the budget back in order, which we touched on earlier, and the employment wage subsidy scheme, which helps employers pay the wages. That's now costing about 400 million euros a month. So that will be phased out, and that will give rise to a lot of savings as well. But I don't want to phase it out too quickly. And Paschal, Michael McGrath and I are very much of the same view on this, that it should continue into next year.
How far into next year?
Well, that's what we need to work out between now and Budget Day. In the UK and in Northern Ireland, they're ending the furlough scheme at the end of this month. We think that's a mistake. We want it to continue into next year, but we're going to have to work out what we can afford and how we can work that into the budget. But what I want to say to employers, particularly in those hard-hit sectors like hospitality, for example, we understand you're not yet operating at full capacity, and for those reasons we need to continue these wage supports and not not end them on the 31st of December.
It seems as well from reports this morning that there will be a scaling back of mass testing. Can you tell us when that's likely to happen? Could it happen very quickly after the opening up that's planned from the 22nd of October?
I'm afraid I can't. I've seen the reports, but I haven't actually received the advice from NPHET on this. But speaking as a doctor, it does make sense to me. Because of the vaccine programme, COVID is now a virus that we can live with. Managing it, I think, into the future is going to be a little bit more like how we've managed influenza, the flu in the past. We wouldn't have done mass testing around that. We would have done something called sentinel testing and monitoring. So we would expect that move to happen.
You would favour that. There's been a lot going on for you personally and politically over the summer. What was your own reaction to that photograph that was taken of you at the Hoopla Festival in England over a week ago? And then we saw your partner writing in the Irish Times at the weekend, and he called it a particularly unedifying picture designed to humiliate, and it showed people celebrate the violation of one's right to privacy and dignity. Did you feel your privacy was violated?
Well, look, it wasn't a very flattering photograph, and if the shoe is on the other foot, it's not a photograph that I would have posted of somebody else, and I've never done anything like that. But I am a public figure, and to a certain extent it goes with the territory, that if you're out and about in public, people will take photos of you, and that's the way it is, and I accept that. Matt is very much his own person, I guarantee you, and is able to write letters without my
Clearly
permission.
upset him. Did it upset you both?
I've been through a lot of these types of things, and I don't let them hold me back. But what I do want to say in terms of the wider issue around the event sector and the events industry, I've been one of the strongest supporters around the cabinet table.
But was it bad judgment to be there? Taking the photograph aside, was it bad judgment to attend?
I suppose the view that I took was that 2 days later, and it was only 2 days later, concerts, conferences, exhibitions, big matches, big events in Ireland were allowed. And I was one of the people who made sure that we had that reopening plan in place for the event sector. And I took the view that, because it was only 2 days, maybe that wouldn't matter. But I understand that for people who have been closed for a year and a half, for 180 days, people working in that sector,
Would
they felt differently.
that type of happening make you rethink your leadership of the party? Will you lead the party into the next general election?
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to it.
Taoiseach, leader of Fine Gael, Leo Varadkar, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.